may begin.
Okay, so the movie I had for my presentation was Us. The plot of the movie takes place in Santa Cruz Beach when Adelaide Wilson
I can't hear you anymore,
Yeah.
Chels.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Chels.
In all, Us was nominated for 135 awards, and they won 85 of them. And some of the awards that they won include the Saturn Award in 2019 for Best Horror Film, Best Director, Best Actress, and the Critics' Choice Award in 2020 for Best Sci-Fi and Horror Movie. The Hollywood Critics Association Award in 2019 for Best Picture, and the Image Award for Outstanding Writing in a Motion Picture Film. They were nominated for many more. So more about the movie. It takes place in Santa Cruz, California. It was published March 22nd, 2019, and the genre is a psychological horror and thriller. It was rated R, obviously, for the violence and the gore, and the company
You cut out again.
You there, Chelsea?
one of Time Magazine's 100 influential people. He's most known for his acting in the movie Con You, which is a comedy, directing and writing both Get Out and Us, and writing and producing the new remake of Candyman last year. He was nominated for many awards, but he actually won an Oscar in 2018 for his film Get Out. Almost all of Jordan Peele's films tend to take place in the more suburb areas, and they focus on psychological horror while also dealing with social and cultural issues. And the cast begins with Lupita Nyong'o, and she's a Kenyan Mexican-born actress who was a production assistant in movies before she graduated from Yale School of Drama, their acting program. She's most known for the TV series Sugar, Black Panther, and 12 Years a Slave. She portrays Adelaide, who's the main character and protagonist and minor antagonist of the film, and the wife of Gay Miller and the mother of the two children, Zora and Jason. And she also plays Red, who's the main antagonist of the film, who's the leader and planner for the Tethers and their untethering mission. There's Winston Duke, who's an American actor and producer who began his acting career after also graduating from Yale School of Drama's acting program. And he's most known for the movie Person of Interest, Adventures of Infinity War, and Black Panther as well. He portrays Gabe Wilson, who's Adelaide's husband and father to their two children, and Abraham, who's the tethered version of Gabe and the husband to Red. Next is Shawty Wright Joseph. She's an American actress, singer, and dancer, and she was born on April 29th, 2005, and she won a Hollywood Critics Association Award in 2020 for The Next Generation of Hollywood, but she was also nominated for many more awards. She's best known for The Lion King, Them, which is a prequel kind of Us, and Us. And she portrays Zora, who's the daughter of Gabe and Adelaide Wilson, and the older sister to Jason, and Umbre, who's the tethered version of Zora and the daughter of Abraham and Red. And there's also Evan Alex, who's a young, inspiring actor born on May 5th, 2008. And he was nominated for awards including the MCFCA Award Best Young Actor and the Saturn Award Best Performance of a Younger Actor. He's best known for The Kids, Reenact, The Kid, and Us. And he portrays Jason, the daughter of Gabe and Adelaide Wilson, and the brother to Zora Wilson, and Pluto, the tethered version of Jason and the son of Abraham. And some facts about the film. Jordan Peele's own fear of doppelgangers and rabbits, as rabbits are seen everywhere in the film, the tethers ate them, influenced the development of the film. Red's tethered voice is inspired by a real medical disorder, spasmodic dysphonia, and the eerie chant that's played throughout the movie had no real meaning, and the composer only just made up the language and put it in there. And on days that Nong played as Red, all the cast and crew said that she would stay in her character even when they were off set, not filming, and just stare and kind of creep them out. The leather glove that the tethers wore is meant to represent some 80s pop culture with Michael Jackson, O.J. Simpson, Freddy Krueger, and what was never mentioned, the tunnels that the tethers lived in, the director named them the underpass. All the cast costumes that the cast wore were symbolic. Like Adelaide wore white throughout the film, so by the end, Adelaide's clothes would be as bloody by the same color as Red's jumpsuit. And the Hall of Mirrors in 1986 features Shaman's Vision Quest Forest, which was an Indian, and in 2019, they renamed the mirrors Merlin's Forest, which was a wizard. The presence of white rabbits, the Hall of Mirrors, and the red jumpsuits worn by the tethered are all references to Alice in Wonderland. And the baseball game that is titled 11-11, and one of the team's names are Minnesota, and the team name for that was Twins. Some themes of the film were revenge, freedom, equality, survival, good versus evil, duality, and we are our own worst enemy. And then there's the questions.
Yeah, that was a really cool fact about the baseball game, the Minnesota Twins.
Oh, I know. I thought so too. I would just not expect that.
Yeah, so before we get to Chelsea's questions, we'll kind of do this like we've done with all the presentations. We'll kind of get to the questions organically, I guess. But first, let's get your guys' general thoughts on the film. What did you guys make of this film?
This is my second time watching it, and I thought it was a pretty good, scary film. It would be cool to have a doppelganger, but hopefully not so crazy and mean.
This was my first time watching the film, and this is probably one of the best horror movies in our within the last 20 years, I would say. It's like one of those films that actually kept me on edge. Like, even Hereditary didn't really keep me on edge. It was more so like, okay, that was messed up. But this one, like, just with, like, how she said the music didn't have really any meaning, that that just put a little fear behind me for some reason. Just like those voices chanting, it was terrifying. Like I wasn't scared, but you could feel that adrenaline start to build up, and I thought this was a really good movie.
There is something quite unnerving about that chant. What about the rest of you?
This was my first time watching it, and I really liked it. It really scared me a lot, so I liked it.
What about it scared you, Shay? Like, was there a certain scene or?
Pretty much all of it, really. Like what she said, it kept me on my toes. Wasn't expecting some of the scenes, but yeah, I really liked it.
This was my first time watching it, and the scariest part for me is whenever the little kid, she like snapped her fingers and then little kids just took off running, and I was like, oh no, that is not good.
Yeah, this was my first time watching it too. It was, I don't think it didn't scare me like as much as I thought that it was going to. When it first started, I thought it was going to be like a lot scarier. The parts like that was kind of like, I guess, what scared me the most, like, looking out the window and when you saw like all the family like lined on the driveway in the dark and stuff like that part was kind of like, creepy. And then when she snapped the fingers and the kids took off like it was almost like they were running like on all fours, like that was kind of creepy and stuff. And the voice of Red, the way that she talked and the way that her eyes were just so I guess, it was just creepy because they would just like stare so much. But parts like that kind of scared me, but it was not it didn't like jump scare me as much as I thought. Like there was certain scenes that you knew were going to be coming up, like when the girl took off running, when the daughter took off running, her mom told her to run, so she ran, and it was like she got so much of a head start. It was just like you knew that the one of the tethered were that she was going to be able to like catch up with her like super quick. And of course she did. And then the part like where she like goes under the car, like, and was looking, and it was like, no, she's going to be on top of the car, and then she was on top of the car. And then the part where the daughter drives Zora, when she drives and she hits the other girl, and she kind of like goes through like into the forest, like in the tree. And then Adelaide, she gets out and goes and looks, and you're like, no, don't get out to go look. Like parts like that were just kind of like scary, but it was like almost like you knew something was coming, but it wasn't like jump scare stuff.
This was my first time watching the movie, and this is definitely probably my favorite of all the horror movies we've watched in this category. I really like the premise of the movie, and I really like the characters as well. I like the whole doppelganger kind of story they went with. I thought it was very interesting, and I was a very big fan of all the characters. I thought they were all interesting. Like all the doppelgangers of Adeline's family and Adeline's family themselves. I just really enjoyed it.
This is my second time watching this movie, and I think this is a good scary movie, but I'm not really into scary movies because I'm scared. I thought they did a good job, and it was creepy. Like Red, she was creepy. Her voice, I thought so.
Chelsea, what did you say that name of that disorder was? I remember it was on your PowerPoint.
Let me look real quick. Spasmodic dysphonia. Might be pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Does any of you guys here with a medical brain know what that is? Where's our nursing majors when we need them, right?
I wondered too if, like once it got to the end of the movie, the way that she talked, may have been like a result from, um, I guess like when they swapped places because it kind of looked like reached out and started almost like strangling her. So I wondered, even though it is based on like a medical condition, I wondered if maybe the reason that she talked that way was maybe because of some damage from like when they swapped places then.
Yeah, I think that's possible, Stacy, because the other doppelgangers in the movie didn't really talk. Like they moaned and grunted, right? But she was the only one to talk.
Yeah, I thought so. I didn't realize that. Like to me, I thought that that was strange. It was like all the way through the movie. I was like, well, why can she talk? But then like, the husband, Gabe's doppelganger, and like all of them, they would just like yell or like make noises or just like stuff like that. But it still didn't occur to me until like the very end of the movie. And then I was like, oh, that's why she could talk and the other ones weren't talking.
Okay.
The condition that the actress had, it's described as a condition that comes from trauma, sometimes emotional, sometimes physical. It creates spasms in your vocal cords that leads to irregular flow of air. Yeah, I've never heard it, but I feel like that's actually the character Red, just that breaking in her voice. That was really interesting.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like she's constantly gasping for air, right? Which is definitely is very unnerving. What do you guys think of this doppelganger concept? Have any of you guys ever been exposed to this concept before? Like all of us have a shadow self, right? So like everybody in the world has a lookalike.
I've actually had that happen.
Yeah.
There was a woman that came up to me in the middle of Walmart once, and she was sitting there just talking away to me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you must have the wrong person. I don't know you. And then she goes, oh my God, you look such like some person. And I'm like, oh, well, no, that's not me. I'm Aline.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it, and I've had people tell me I look like somebody or somebody looks like me before. But I like the concept whenever the movie came out, and I thought it was really interesting. So I've definitely heard of it.
This is an idea that goes way back through Gothic fiction. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a really great short story called William Wilson, which is about this concept of a doppelganger, and it goes back even further than him. So this is a very classic idea. Something's just a little unnerving about it if you think about it, right? Like we all do have one. Like, what's the person like? How might they be different than us?
Yeah, I've heard stories of like people that like met the person that like is their doppelganger, and like they've had similar lives or married like people with the same names and stuff. So I've always found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a scary thought. Like, who's the other Jeff Yeager in the world? Right? What's he doing with himself? Right? I'm scary enough. I can't imagine having two of me. Right?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like meeting the person that's like the same as you, and then they're just like crazy or something.
I feel bad for whoever's like me, because I'm enough for this world. There's no need for the second one.
You and me both there, Jaden. World can only take one of us. Yeah, this is a idea that goes all. I mean, this idea is prominent because this goes back even into like psychology and stuff. Um, like oftentimes doppelgangers are used to kind of show like what would your, if we go back to like Freudian psychology, like what's our repressed self look like? So like oftentimes the reason why they're shadowy figures, they're kind of seen as this of all the thoughts and feelings that we repress on a daily basis. So sometimes doppelgangers are kind of used to show like what our subconscious minds look like, which oftentimes isn't pretty, right? So the very concept is psychological in nature. I guess that's where I'm going with that. The way that this movie does it is extremely peculiar too. Like the doppelgangers exist underground, like they're mirroring what we do in our everyday lives. So like we had the whole bit with her dancing, right? And you see the doppelganger dancing down in the tunnel. I thought that was kind of a creepy way to go about it.
Yeah, I thought that was creepy myself. I was like, oh my goodness, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always wondered why they picked a fun land at the beach to be like the entrance. But I mean, I always thought that was kind of odd. But other than that, I thought it was really creepy. Whenever, because like you see little signs too that like the mom isn't who she says she is, and like the snapping off beat with her kid at the beginning of the movie and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, I see where they're going with it, and I like the idea. But yeah, I found it kind of creepy that they had them like underground doing everything we do.
So I didn't get something. So I get that the underground will do everything we do and stuff like that. And I knew like right away that they like the doppelganger and the real gore switch places. Like it was kind of obvious to me. But the thing that got me was when it showed the little girl dancing underground. Her doppelganger was the one learning to dance, not her. So why was she mimicking her doppelganger? Well, because I thought the doppelgangers were supposed to mimic the children. So like when she first came above ground and she was all quiet, not doing anything, I thought it was because the little girl was in that place and she's just like can't do nothing and she doesn't know how to react. But then they get her into dancing and the doppelganger, so the little girl and the thing. So it makes no sense because how would the little girl know to dance when the doppelganger is the one doing the dancing when it's supposed to be the other way around? That's the only thing that threw me off.
Because they switched. When you switch places with something, you're stuck with the other person's fate. So when they switched at the mirror house, where she grabbed her and they like changed clothes and everything, she became her in a sense, in a way, and the other girl became her. So they were switching the places in their fates. That's the reason why one red held so much anger towards Adeline, I think is how you pronounce her name. They switched places when it should have been the other way around. That's the way I took it, at least.
Yeah, Jaden, you're right. They explain it. It's the same soul, but two bodies. So like the doppelganger does the same exact thing that the other one does. So it's pretty much two souls, one body, or one soul, two bodies. Does that make sense, Jessica, or are you unconvinced?
I mean, it makes sense, but I'm still unconvinced because I'm like, I don't know. I feel that the little girl shouldn't have been doing what the doppelganger was doing. I could see the switching, like grabbing. I've seen movies where they grab someone and put them in a mirror, like mirror people and stuff like that. But when the people get trapped in the mirror, they never take on the person outside of the mirror stuff, but the person inside, I don't know. I could see how the doppelganger got released and she was able to do what she wanted to do freely, but I just still don't. It doesn't convince me why the little girl had to do what the doppelganger did. But I don't know. I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, doesn't she say something about how she would have never danced herself? The person who was the original girl who became the doppelganger, right? She said to the doppelganger, I'm starting to trip over my words here, but she said to her shadow self who stole her identity, right? Like, I would have never been a dancer if it wasn't for you. So it even shows that even though they're doppelgangers, they each have their own personality, I guess you could say, because it keeps showing like how her personality was different from the girl she swapped with.
Yeah, it's almost like that Jordan Peele was trying to say that like the government gave up on it because they felt like they failed and couldn't make clones that actually could think for themselves. But then they come to realize that like while they were down there that maybe they could think for themselves, and that one particular doppelganger did and got out, and it kind of showed that maybe they're not as dumb as the people that created them thought they were.
Right. Yeah, you said it well there, Brandon. They're not just puppets. It's kind of like how the dancing feels like, right? It kind of feels like they're a puppet on a string. So maybe we can dive into Chelsea's questions. Let me see. Well, the first question I want to ask you guys is, what did you think of the filmmaking in the movie? Also, are you guys familiar with Jordan Peele's other work? You guys know he's a comedian, right? He did Key and Peele on Comedy Central. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that, but it's a really funny show. Are you guys familiar with him as a filmmaker and as an actor and a comedian?
I was familiar with him as a comedian, but I didn't realize that was him. So she showed the picture. I was like, oh, okay. Did not expect that from him. But he did amazing.
Yeah, I've always loved their comedy, Key and Peele, but whenever I heard he was making like his first film, Get Out, I was like, it's probably gonna suck and it's gonna be whatever, like a one-off try. But Get Out was like amazing. So then Us, when it came out, I was pumped for it. It has more mixed reviews than Get Out does, but I actually prefer it some days.
Yeah, of the two, I think I like Get Out more. But both are really good films. Get Out's more of a horror comedy than it is a straight up horror. I should have done a horror comedy with you guys. That horror comedy is its own genre. What about the rest of you guys? Has the rest of you guys seen Get Out? Are you familiar with his other work? Or even the new Candyman?
I've watched Get Out, but I haven't watched the new Candyman. I didn't even know they made a new one.
Yeah, it came out last year. He didn't direct that one. He produced it, but he didn't direct it. You can kind of tell because I don't think it's as good as Us or Get Out. Yeah, he's a very prominent filmmaker right now. Like Ari Aster, who did Hereditary, and Jordan Peele, who did this. These are the two those two guys are really the two most influential horror directors who are directing right now. So yeah, Peele's, it's kind of funny how he went from a star comedian to a star horror director, right? But that's kind of the trajectory his career's going on. Get Out's about an African American man who has a white girlfriend, and he goes to her parents' house for the weekend, and lots of craziness ensues. So if that sounds like a kind of plot for you, right? It's that one. That movie's very much a sort of satire. There's a lots of comedy even in this movie though. There's some sort of laugh out loud scenes here. The dad in the movie is pretty funny. Like especially when the doppelgangers show up the first time, he goes outside. It's like, you guys want to fight? Right?
That did make me laugh on that part.
It reminds me of Kevin Hart as like Kevin Hart type of dad. It's like, wow, oh, you want to go? It's like gave me that same type of vibe, and I laughed at it.
Yeah. I loved his fascination with the boat. That was funny too. Even the scene where they go to their colleague's house, like because their doppelgangers killed them, right? But she says call the police, and then the Alexis thinks it's the song F the Police, right? And then it starts playing that. That was pretty funny too. That made me laugh.
Yeah, I laughed at that part.
That is one thing that I was kind of wondering about with the movie. Where are the cops in this movie? Did they all get killed already? Where are the cops in this movie? They say it'd be like they said, what did they say it'd be whenever they first called them? Be 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they're still never to be seen. Like by the time they leave the place. Like, where did the cops go in this movie? Why are there no cops? That's the only complaint I had. But maybe they got killed too. I don't know. Maybe their doppelgangers came and killed them all.
I'm just saying.
That was my thought.
If I'm just saying, if it was my rodeo, and if I was Fred, I would take out the police, the fire station, the hospitals first, make them feel completely useless. There's no help coming. That's the first place to go. Eliminate all sense of hope. You take out all your first responders.
Do you guys think there might be some sort of, considering they played the song F the Police, right? Do you guys think the police's absence in the movie might be some sort of social commentary, perhaps?
I think so. Knowing Jordan Peele and knowing how Get Out was, I think it has to be, because that's what most of he's even stated publicly that he wants to make films with a lot of social commentary and how he feels. So I feel like that's got to be a little nod to what he thinks in the real world too, you know. And it cracked me up when I saw it. I thought it was hilarious because I kind of knew that. I was like, this dude is just so funny. Like,
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with you there, Brennan. There's probably a shade of social commentary here about the police. Which you guys know that's all very much a hot button issue in America right now, right? You know, the way the police treat the Black community, right? It's very much a hot button issue. That definitely goes on a case by case basis, right? But we know it's a hot button issue. Look what happened recently, right? It seems like every month or two there's a new incident. It's very much a political issue, but movies deal with politics. So here's an example. This is one thing that's interesting about Peele too is he makes movies with African American protagonists and characters. Right? If you guys think about it, like how many movies do you really see that mostly feature African Americans? Right? It's not many, especially in the horror genre. So he's kind of I don't know what the word is here, but he's kind of creating his own genre here in a way, right? Of African American horror, because all of his movies have featured mostly African American protagonists. So in a way, he's very innovative in that regard, because Hollywood hasn't really touched on those characters, on Black characters, especially in the horror genre. You guys think about all the movies we've watched in class so far, even this is really the first one we've watched that's has a lot of representation in that way.
Yeah, I recognize that he's flat out said that, and I think it's pretty cool. I recognize that, and I think it gives you opportunity too to get some child actors as such. Like I know in Nope, his new film, he has Keke Palmer in it. I haven't seen her since 2010, so I mean it's going to be interesting to see her. And I know he got Daniel Kaluuya back with him, and I just think it's pretty cool because I like these actors, and if they're going to be in a good film, I want to see a good film.
There we go. Yeah, I think it's a good way to segue over into talking about the acting, Brennan. Like that's one thing I liked about this movie. The acting, was top notch. I love the way that what was her name? The woman who plays Adelaide. I love the way she acts with her eyes. Right. One thing that's so scary about her when the doppelganger shows up, it's just how big her eyes are. Right. That's something that's very unnerving. She's really talented, I think, with acting with her eyes, giving these glares and whatnot. Thought it was funny. Chelsea mentioned she was a method actor on set and creeped everybody out on set the days that she was playing her doppelganger part. All right, what do you guys have to say about the acting? What do you think about the acting in the film?
I think it's awesome. I know you got an Oscar winner in there. I'm pretty sure she's an Oscar winner, Lupita Nyong'o, and I mean she's great in everything she does. And I love Winston Duke, and I love him in Black Panther. And when I saw he was in this film, I was like, okay, it's gonna be pretty good. And the kids all did really good too. And then of course Elizabeth Moss is in it, and she's always amazing. So I thought they were all really good, especially the amount of talent he got in the film too. It's not really hard to get a good performance with a good script, and he got top-notch actors.
Well, the rest of you guys think about the performances in the movie?
I thought they all did really well. I thought the little boy did phenomenal for his age. I mean, to be able to, you know, play the part and act like a dog and do all that crazy crawl. I don't know if they probably had a stunt double, but if he was the one actually doing all that crawling and stuff, I don't know. But if he was, he did a phenomenal job being as young as he is. I think it was very, very good acting, especially, you know, them having to do both parts, you know, the doppelgangers and themselves. That had to be really, really tricky.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up too. I wanted to bring up the child actors. I thought both of them did a really good job playing both their roles. They're probably honestly probably one of the best child actors I'd seen. What's their names again? The two that we see in the film.
It was on Chelsea's PowerPoint.
Evan and what's I don't know how to pronounce the girl's name, being honest. Shahadi.
Right, Shahadi, right, Joseph. And
yeah, both of them did a great job in their roles. Especially Evan. I thought he was great in his role.
I thought he was good too because he seemed to be smart about knowing more than the rest, because he says, when they was asking, what do y'all want? Who are y'all? And that little boy goes, it's us. I thought that part was really good. And the part about how he backed up into the fire, or made his doppelganger back up into the fire, I thought that was pretty smart of him too.
The boy, Jason and Pluto, I feel like they switched just because of those two things that Eileen just messaged. Like, he wasn't afraid when he said, hey, there's a family in the driveway. Everyone else was kind of terrified about that. And he was like more so calm in how none of the doppelgangers went after Jason. If you look closely in the movie, no one tried to hurt Jason. And I feel like there was a mention and towards the beginning of the movie, they mentioned that there was an instance of fire and was setting the house on fire. So I feel like they did a switch the summer before, right before their grandma died. And that's the reason why Pluto's face is all burned up, because he was the one that almost set the house on fire. And that's when Pluto became Jason and Jason became Pluto. If that makes sense.
That's a really interesting theory, Jaden.
Yeah, I was going to say at the end of the movie, I think that theory kind of leads into a different thing where that when the kid looks at the mom and it's kind of like in shock, maybe, like I felt like he realized she was one of the doppelgangers, but I've always thought that because he kind of has that moment of like realization that like, oh, okay, she's my mom's doppelganger.
Just saying, Pluto and Reg should, out of all the doppelgangers, they had the strangest relationship. No one was ever that close to the doppelgangers, but them had a special relationship because I feel like they were both like above ground people. At one point, they got switched at one point, and they got closer because of it. And I feel like that's the same reason why Adeline and Jason were oddly close as well. It just made sense, especially why Jason was so willing to keep that secret. I'm just saying, it was me, I would have ran out in the first instance I got. Just because why would I want to stay with someone that killed my potential real mother? You know?
Eileen is praising how dark your mind is, Jaden. So
I've been watching horror movies since I was like 6.
I have since I was probably 3. So yeah, I mean, you kind of are almost the same, but I just don't talk about mine as much.
I guess my love of them started when I was a young teenager. That's probably when my love of the genre started. But yeah, his mask in the movie is really interesting, because like the mask is almost this sort of like switch, like where he flips back and forth between personalities even. So I think that will back up Jaden's hypothesis here. Like why is he always so worried about his mask? I think that definitely supports the doppelganger stuff in the movie, as even the way that he uses this mask.
I just found it really interesting how Red, of all of them, that she was like, Pluto, you go play with Jason. But the race was like, go kill him. Go kill everyone else. But Pluto and Jason were both meant to be kind. Not maybe really kind, but you know, he was supposed to be safer than the rest. That just sparked something in my head, I guess. Sparked an idea.
Let's dive into Chelsea's questions. Let's see. Chelsea, you mind pulling your PowerPoint back up, going back to that slide?
Yeah, I can. I'll have to log back in. Same on my computer though. It messed up when I was on there.
I might be able to pull it up. Give me a sec. I'll use the one you sent me earlier today. Here we go.
Did you get it?
Yep. Let's see, which questions should we tackle? I like your question 8 here. Who's the real villain in the film, Red or Adelaide? Especially with that realization at the end, right? They reveal it in the last minute or two that they switched places. So do you guys see sympathy for Red's cause after knowing that they switched places and Adelaide was really the villain? Whose side are you on here?
I think neither were the villain. I think the government, whoever made the shadow people, are the villains, because no one wants to live a life like that. Even if you are like considered soulless or whatever those shadow people are, they don't want to live the way that they're being forced to live. So I don't blame them one bit being a child and switching with somebody else, because, again, she doesn't really have like the empathy to know, I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. Putting this other person in my situation. She wanted to get free. And then I feel for Red, because Red, she had a normal life up until that point. Of course, she's going to want that life back. And of course, she's going to do whatever it takes to get that life back, because it's horrible where she's at. So I feel bad for both of them. I think they were both in a bad situation. I wish there was been a way that they both could have, like the shadow people could just come up and live amongst the regular people. But that's, then we wouldn't have a movie. So, but yeah, I feel bad for everyone. I think it's whoever made the shadow people, I think it's their fault.
I would have to agree with Jessica there, because, like, I'm just saying, with how our government's set up, they would totally do something like this. And I feel like that's one reason why they kept the shadow people in the shadow, because they knew if the people actually knew what was going on, there was been a whole revolt. And I thought that was a really interesting concept that he went with. That he's like, okay, yes, the government made them and caused this whole big situation. I like how they tried to hide it and then mention it throughout the movie. Just thought that was a really interesting concept we had.
Yeah, I agree. I think the government is the real villain, but I think that once the doppelgangers start killing people is once they become the villain of the film, because they kind of take that extra leap. And and that's just my personal opinion.
But wouldn't you kill someone if you had to eat raw rabbits and get cut and all that? I think I would kill somebody to get out of that situation.
Oh yeah, I would.
They're the product of their environment. They were never really taught right from wrong, and all they know is like they wanted the lives of the above ground people. They've had the lives that everyone else dreams of, and they were treated like trash. It's like how the social dynamic is. Like the rich get all the good stuff, while people in poverty, especially around here, we get the bare minimum, the scraps. And at one point, if you push the people that are struggling so far, they will snap.
Yeah, the rabbits at the beginning was definitely pretty creepy. What about the mise en scène here of these like abandoned tunnel systems all across America? I thought that was an interesting place to put the doppelgangers. Like at the beginning of the movie, they give you a little blurb about how there's like thousands of miles of abandoned tunnels across America. I think that's a little unnerving, right? Thinking about like what all might be in those tunnels.
Yeah, I like that too. I thought it was creepy because then you start thinking, and we're like, we don't know anything really our government does either. So something like that could really be happening, and you never really know.
When she first went to go down, I thought it was strange how I thought it was because she kept going downstairs and downstairs and downstairs and turn around and go downstairs. And I thought that it was strange because it kept seeming like it was going farther and farther down.
Do you think that might be like a Dante's Inferno type deal there, Stacy? The further down you go into hell, perhaps?
I don't know, that's a good point because it's like a different level because she would go down to a certain point and then it was kind of like to a different set of stairs and it was like once she got down to the main level of where she was, the hallways and then the rabbits and there were different classrooms and there were different like corridors and stuff that kind of came up with the stairs. But I even said that when we were watching the movie, I even said that I was like, gosh, she keeps going, you know what I mean? There's just more and more stairs.
Sheena, what do you think? You think there's a Dante Inferno thing going on here? I ask because I know that you've read it.
Did you say me? I couldn't hear you.
Yep. Yeah.
I could kind of see that, but not. I mean, a little bit, I guess, just because like the main character, of how you say her name, like kind of how she acts, I can see that, but not really. I don't know, like kind of, I guess.
If you guys aren't familiar with the story of Dante's Inferno, right? Dante, the poet, goes into hell. And there's all these different tiers of hell that they explore across the story. So like each part of hell punishes people in a different way. Classic medieval story. That's what we're making mention to. I just now Googled the Jeremiah 11 verse. Yeah, you guys can see my screen here. It says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them." Of course, if you put that verse into context, right, that's talking about when the Jewish people turn their back on God, right? So God kind of is punishing them and abandoning them, right? That's a lot of like what's going on in the book of Jeremiah. So what was the context of this verse being in the movie? Did I just completely miss that?
It was the guy holding the sign right before she went down to the mirror room in the beginning, little girl, and then once again that was the guy who was stabbed to death. When they were pulling up to the beach for the second time.
So this might be some sort of again some sort of commentary on the evil that was done to the doppelgangers or something like that, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think? What's the significance of that verse?
In the beginning, I feel like that was foreshadowing the doppelganger's appearance. Towards the end, I agree with you. It was just tell them what has happened. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You said it better. But at the beginning, I feel like it was more so foreshadowing, and then afterwards, it's more so what you said.
Yeah, interesting random verse to throw in there, right? Let's see. What about question 7 here? Is there a deeper meaning behind the movie? Explain. I guess we've been trying to come up with deeper meanings, the whole class here.
I think I personally believe it goes a lot deeper than the way I'm thinking, but I think the movie is about like how we look at ourselves, maybe, and I don't know. It's like I have a thought of like how we look at ourselves and how we think about ourselves as, and how we can change to be better and stuff like that.
The way I saw it was how one life instance of one small change in your whole life can change out the entire outcome. Like if Adeline never went down to the mirror room, how she would have kept on the right path, but she did, and it changed her whole outcome. It was telling you like one big mistake, one small mistake can ruin the rest of your life, or can make it better. And like what I mentioned before, it could also mean like the current statuses of what we have in the United States right now. Like the upper ground people, the reason they were slaughtered off could be like the upperclassmen that are controlling us now in the government, the lower classmen being the people of the underpass. I can see it both ways there.
So you think there might be like a class theme here, Jaden, like maybe exploitation of the lower classes or something like that?
Oh yeah, because think about it. It was like the underpass people were down in the dirt on the sewage people essentially, and like consider that was the lower classmen or even sometimes the working class. how they're constantly being put down, put down, put down. And Thomas Jefferson even says, like, if the government gets too righteous and stuff, strike them down and change it. Not exact wordings, but I'm just paraphrasing. Like, today's government, they're so controlling, they're poisoning our foods, they're doing this, this, and that. And the rich are so rich, they're not supporting the working class people. They're, at one point, we're going to get so sick of it, there's going to be a revolution. I thought that'd be a great metaphor for it. It's this movie.
I agree with you about that on the government, Jaden.
Yeah, it's interesting here because we mentioned race earlier, right? But oftentimes class and race are very much intertwined. The exploitation of race is oftentimes has a class dimension as well. Did you guys ever wonder, like back in the Democratic primaries, like if you remember, Bernie Sanders never really did well with Black voters, right? One reason why was because Bernie Sanders' message is all about social class is the root of all evil in America, right? The wealthy have all this money, everybody else is stuck with the scraps. That message didn't really resonate with Black voters, right? Because they see race as the inequalities with race as being the problem a lot in America. So when in actuality, it's probably a little bit of both, right? But his message never really resonated with that community. Like every time he went to the South, like whether it was against Hillary or against Biden, right? He always got clean. He always got his clock clean in the South, especially because his message never really resonated down there. So again, bringing up politics here, but it's definitely relevant to what the movie.
This is off topic, but what is the other slide? It says sources down there.
She just cited her some places she found her information.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even ask you guys to do that. So good there, Chelsea. I don't know. I mean, we could talk politics here for a few minutes. What do you guys think here? Is it race that's the problem? Is it class? Or is everything, what type of inequality exists? If there is inequality, what do you guys think here? Because I think it's important to our discussion.
I think there is inequality. I hate to say this, but I feel like there always will be, at least slightly. Like, it's something me and my older brother get an argument with. You know, especially Black women have it the worst, I feel like. Because they're not only get judged by their skin color, they're judged being their gender as well. Women make 70 cents to a man's dollar, like overall throughout the country. My brother Bryson does not believe that, but I've read multiple sources where that's an actual fact. And sadly it's always there, and I feel like what's worse, not worse, but I feel like how our today's government style is, it's both due to inequality in classes, which can also go hand in hand. That's the reason why it's going to be our ultimate downfall one of these days. The lower class men and like the diversity of people is going to rise up and try to change that. And, you know, because if you look at today's government style, mostly you see older white men. It's the best way to put it. And they're here to they're stuck in like the 60s and like 50s mindset, if that makes sense. And one day people are going to get so sick of it, and it's going to ruin so many things. Not even ruin. It's going to change so many things.
Yeah, you brought gender into the mix there too, Jaden. I didn't bring that up when I asked the question, but yeah, gender is definitely part of the big picture too. Whether you're a conservative or a liberal, right? Just look at what happened with the most recent Supreme Court nominee. She got grilled very hard. You can ask yourself, would she have got grilled that hard if she was a man, right? I don't know the answer to that, but it makes you ask the question.
I think as long as there's people on this earth, we're going to have some kind of equality. I feel that people for as long as time always have to feel, and it's sad that not everyone, but someone has to feel superior than somebody else. You got like the caste system in India, you look over, Russia, everywhere you got like upper class, lower class and stuff like that. In the US, you got whites, blacks, males, females, you got all that. Everyone for some reason, and I mean, I honestly don't see why we can't just get along. But that's why there's wars. That's why everybody wants something they don't have. Everyone feels that they're better than somebody. Well, not everyone, but you know what I'm saying. The how ups. There's people that have to feel superior, and why those people like that, it's always going to be a class system. I like to think that we're getting better. I mean, I myself, I do not feel I'm lower class. I'm lower middle class. I do not feel that I'm better than anybody. But like it just growing up, I heard stuff like that because my father was illiterate. My father couldn't read. My family, like I still get it because I went to college. I think I'm better than them because I went to school, because I'm the first one to have a high school diploma on my father's side of the family. It's not looked down upon. And I love my family, but you get a lot of drawback from it. And then on my husband's side, I'm a woman and I work. You can't win. You can't win. If you're a stay-at-home mom, everyone's going to look at you and judge you because you're a stay-at-home mom and you don't work. But if you work, you're not there with your kids. If you're white, you must be racist. If you're an old white man, you must be racist. If you're black, you must be a hoodlum. I mean, everyone has such stereotypes, and I don't think we're ever going to get rid of them. I would love to, but I don't think we're ever truly going to get rid of the stereotypes, at least not in my lifetime or my children's lifetime. And I do think this movie, though, it is trying to say something about, like, I don't know if it's class because, the people in the movie were rich, but I do think that it is trying to say something with the government and, like the shadow people were considered less than, and that there is people out there considered less than, and, they may revolt like a civil war, because you can kind of see what those shadow people did, kind of like a civil uprising. They fought for their freedom. They fought for, to come back, so yeah, I just think there's always going to be inequality no matter where you are. If women become president, then the men somehow going to get, repressed. And, someone's going to be taking the blame for something. Got to have a scapegoat.
Very well said, Jessica. I was about to say, everyone's going to have something to complain about. I feel like, especially with the Russia and Ukraine situation, Putin's just having a big team raise at this point. It's like little kid elementary stuff. Like, oh, you took, even though you left years ago, I still want my toy back. And he's going to do everything in his power to try to get it back. And I really hope someone puts him in his place one of these days. Hope sooner than later. But yeah, everyone's going to have something to complain about. There's never going to be inequality, especially within the next few lifetimes, I would say. And it's sad. It really is. But What are you gonna do about it? The only thing you can do is try to make it a little bit better by being a better person yourself.
But both of you said that more eloquently than I could have. So very good. So awesome then, guys. We wrapped up our horror unit. It was a much shorter horror unit than I normally do. Like I said, if you took me in the fall semester, I normally do 5 or 6 of these during the fall. So I cut them down a little in the spring then. So Stacy, you're free of horror movies now. I know they're not your thing.
They're not. They weren't as bad as like I was anticipating them to be, but I don't know. I think Hereditary was probably the worst one. This one, once I started watching it last night, it wasn't like, I guess, as jump scare as what I thought it was going to be. And there was more things that I was expecting, but yeah, I didn't. I think Hereditary was the worst one.
Yeah, as far as horror goes, I'm definitely more of a psychological horror person. I enjoy the slasher movies, the Michael Myers movies. I like stuff like The Exorcist and stuff like that too. Yeah,
Sib-
I'm into it all probably, but I really like psychological horror.
Have you watched Sybil?
I haven't, no.
You've never watched Sybil?
I don't. I've heard of it, but I haven't. No.
We had to watch it for psych and nursing school. It's a really good movie, and it's a good book too.
I still wish you would have put Silence of the Lambs on here. I guess
I have taught that many times.
it's one of my favorites. You can't have this section without Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I've taught that one many times, Jaden. If you get on YouTube, you can on my channel here, you can probably find the video from where I've done it in a previous class.
You should do Misery.
Yeah, I'm constantly going back and reinventing my list and trying to come up with new stuff. They actually don't have me teaching this class this fall, which is sad. I guess next time we'll teach it will be next spring.
Add Fresh to your spring thing. That's just came out on Hulu. I'm telling you, it's a good movie. It's a good horror movie.
What's it called?
Fresh. It's on Hulu.
We'll write that down. I'll give it a look. So our next movie up, guys, we're doing musicals next week, much to Eileen's dismay. Next up will be West Side Story from 1961. So somebody's presenting on that one. Let me just double check who that is.
It's me.
Sonny, it's you. Okay. So remember to watch the 1961 version, not the one that came out last year. Guys, remember too, before we leave, I did put up details about that next paper. So I made a little video about it after class the other day and put up a prompt. So the sequel, prequel, remake paper. So if you haven't taken a look at that, all the details on that yet, all that stuff's on our Brightspace page. We've got several options to do. A lot of these sequel prequels I'm not very familiar with. Some of the ones I came up with as possible options are kind of loose sequels, loosely connected. But just looking real quick at my list, for Rocky, you got a bunch of different ones. you could do. Blade Runner has the sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Vertigo has a remake called Obsession. Shane has a remake called Pale Rider. For a few dollars more, I said you could do one of the other two movies in the Eastwood Dollars trilogy. Goodfellas. It's not a sequel, prequel, or remake, but it's another movie about Henry Hill that came out the same exact time as Goodfellas. I thought of you, Stacy, when I saw that. I was thinking that's probably what you'll write about.
I thought about it when I saw the list. I was looking at the list because I've not seen that one before. So I was going to look it up and kind of, I thought about watching it to see if it was something that I would want to, try to maybe compare and contrast them or something.
The Matrix has 3 different sequels. Of course, it was an original trilogy, and they just came out with the 4th movie. The Haunting has the 1999 remake, and you could also do the Haunting of Hill House TV show if you wanted to do that. West Side Story has a remake from last year. Les Miserables, which we'll do next Thursday. It has a 1998 version of the movie. That's not a musical, it's a drama. So that might be an interesting comparative analysis type deal. Then later in our comedy unit, we'll do 16 Candles. And I said there, you can compare that one with The Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink, because they're all, it's kind of like how the Clint Eastwood movies were, the Westerns. They all have Molly Ringwald, and they're kind of like a loose trilogy in a way. So you can do a comparison with those. So you have plenty of choices as far as like what type of sequel, prequel, remake you might want to do. A lot of the movies I picked in here didn't have sequel, prequels, or remakes. That's unusual because usually there's a lot of franchises. But
Like Fargo, for instance.
I forgot about Fargo. You could maybe compare that to the TV show. Yeah, you could. That's an option too. I didn't think about that.
Well, I put that in the comments, but I guess you missed it somehow.
Yeah, I did.
Would you ever consider making Hereditary's like sister film, Midsummer, one of the prompt things? It's not exactly remake or anything, but they're considered like fairly similar. That's the reason. He considers them sister films.
Yeah, you could do a comparison of Midsummer and Hereditary. I would allow that. Yeah.
Could I do it on the Halloween, the new one, like the old ones?
Yeah.
Or like the newer ones with Rob Zombie, or like that he did, and then the original.
Yeah, that would be fine. I know both films really well. So.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Rob Zombie's.
No, I'm not a fan of that one either. I actually had a student do a paper on that once, and she wrote a very passionate defense of Rob Zombie's version, which I thought was interesting.
Some people love it. For me, it just wasn't how Michael Myers was supposed to be. Like, I don't know. It just, the movie just was not how I picture like Michael Myers movies, I guess.
Getting too much backstory. That was the problem with it. All right, guys. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, this ain't nothing to do with that. I was just saying, it's just when you're talking about sequels and prequels and comparing stuff, it made me think of something that they're doing in Huntington, and I would so love if there was ever a class like that. They're having people read books, and then the movie theater in Huntington once a month is having the movie, like they have a book and they're going to play the movie for that book and people can talk about it. I forget what theater in Huntington it is, but I was like, that would be such a good class to be able to like have a theater appreciation class with books. Like you read the book, then watch the movie, and then you compare the two. I thought that would be really interesting. And this made me think of that. But
yeah, so Guys, I think I gave you 2 weeks to do it. So it'll be due that last week of April. So you guys can start thinking about what you might want to do for that.
Where's the file? I see your video, but I don't see the file showing like what we can do.
You click
Like when I go to course.
if you click content, I put a folder up at the bottom of content that says short paper 2, and the prompt and the video I made explaining it and the Dropbox are all there.
Oh, I see it now. Okay. I was okay. Thank you.
Well, so with that said, guys, take care. You all have a great Easter weekend. We'll see you all next week for our musical.
Have a good Easter.
You too.